Hi there, I'm Gabriel Aloisi, founder of Shake Creative, and I'm going to be chatting with Ben Kaczynski, founder of Sumpto, which is an online platform that connects brands with influential college students. Ben, thanks for joining me today. Give us a
Definitely.
little history on Sumpto and how you came up with the concept.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me. So basically, I had a really unique college experience. I played 2 years of college basketball at a very small liberal arts school in Massachusetts called Clark University. I then blew out my knee my sophomore year, and I decided to transfer. So I transferred to the University of Miami, where I joined a fraternity. And it was a completely different school with completely different types of students. And the one thing that I noticed that was synonymous between the two was how connected to each other college students were online, and essentially how much untapped peer-to-peer influence existed within their online conversations. Then when I graduated a couple years ago, saw the difficulty that brands had in reaching the college demographic. So I said, what if we could identify these college influencers, these trendsetters on campus, and let them organically do the talking for the brands online?
Excellent. So we're talking about gamification today with you. Gamification is the buzzword right now. So tell me why you think games are so captivating and why are they getting so much attention?
Sure. So I think that it kind of goes back to the psychology of humans, in that we constantly want to complete things and we constantly want to be rewarded for our actions. So if a website or a service, whatever it may be, can really find that trigger, can find some way to get a user to perform a certain task on their website by rewarding them through games or incentives or simple, the gamification aspect. I think there's a lot of benefit there for that website and anyone else who's involved with that platform. It kind of just goes back with completing of tasks, that is kind of built into our psychology, whereas if users are given the opportunity to complete certain tasks for that website and they see that reward, more times out of not, then they will actually complete that task for the website.
Nice. So what are some of the characteristics or concepts that actually make for a good game?
Sure. So I think that there always has to be a trigger, there has to be an incentive, and there has to be a clear line of how people will get from that trigger and kind of be rewarded with that incentive. So by that I mean you have to show the user what they can win or what they can achieve or what can happen if they complete that task, and try to make it as seamless and as easy as possible. And then if you're able to combine that with a community feel, so if you're able to kind of make it seem to the user that, hey, if you don't do this task, there's 1,000 other people that will. And then also, if you do this task, your experience, your UX will be greatly increased with other people. I think that's a very good way to go about it. So I think it's really about combining the group mentality that humans have inherently with an incentive, and if that trigger is correct. So if people see what they can win or see what they can get by completing a series of tasks, I think that's a really interesting way to implement something on your website.
Absolutely. What ways do you think brands can capitalize on gamification, taking those concepts with the triggers that you mentioned, and actually develop fans and ultimately customers for their brand?
Sure. So I think with brands, a lot of the things what they're trying to do is trying to now a lot of them are trying to become content creators. So they're trying to have users create all this UGC, this user-generated content on behalf of the brand, and then they can push it out through their own channels. And that's really cool. And I think that kind of having this credible and word-of-mouth recommendations from these brand advocates are a lot more effective, a lot more meaningful than just kind of the brand spewing out these traditional ads. Some things that brands can do is really just, again, as I mentioned, offer an incentive, but have these users complete a series of tasks to get that incentive. I'm really trying to make it into either a gamified process or a competitive process, or whatever that may be. While doing that, it kind of naturally filters out the people who really want that product, who really want to be connected with that brand, with people who are kind of also just kind of shrugging it off. So that natural filter allows brands to easily identify these potential brand advocates and loyalists who can really become champions for them through the gamified process.
That's awesome. When you're developing a game that will capture people's attention for the brand, what advice would you give to brands starting out that want to start creating their own games?
Mhm. So I think you need to know, you need to understand the goal. What is your actual overarching goal of the program? You need to know who you want to connect with. Kind of just putting it out there in general I don't think is the best approach. I really think exclusivity is something that's really unique and that a lot of people really attract to. So, for Sumpto, it's all about college. So that kind of exclusivity, that community feel is kind of built into our platform. But I really think that people respond just inherently well and strong to communities and exclusivity. I also think that there needs to be a relationship between these brands and their potential consumers or users or whatever it may be. I think it's a lot more valuable to create a meaningful relationship on a one-to-one basis rather than just trying to scale an approach to any and everyone. So almost a hand-holding approach for brands with their potential users is a good way to start off, and then you can easily find the champions, the advocates, the loyalists for your brand by including gamification, competitive nature, contests into potential programs.
Gamification is all about increasing engagement. What ways have you seen games take brands to a new level in engaging their target audiences?
Sure. Yeah, there's a bunch. The first thing that comes to mind is, and I think maybe one of the first sites that did it really well was LinkedIn. So when LinkedIn, started a couple years ago, and they had the profile, they were one of the first to really emphasize the percentage of the profile complete. So when you saw that your LinkedIn profile was only about 30% complete, you saw that and you just didn't want to see that line only filled about 30% of the total it could possibly be. So you wanted to complete your tasks, and because you knew the reward, which was, hey, complete your profile by 10% more, and your profile can get seen by hundreds of thousands of more people, all by the trigger, all by simply putting in your hometown or putting in your major in college or whatever that may be. That was a really unique way for LinkedIn to A, create more engagement among their users, B, understand more about their users, and C, have these users complete their information, complete their profiles, which inherently increase everyone else's user experience as well. And I also think that completion bar is a very simple but important way that a lot of brands and websites can use that. So we use that on Sumpto for users' own profiles. And it's people's kind of inherent nature. They really just want to complete those tasks so that they can see that 100% completion level on that profile.
Yeah, there's something to be said for a reward system as well, I'm sure. At what point does a game actually cross over from being something fun or whimsical to actually making an impact? Where's that line, and how do brands get there?
I don't know if you really even want to find the line. I think that because I almost think it's supposed to be fun and whimsical. If it's almost too serious, if it's almost very forced, then people aren't going to respond well to it. They should know that they're almost not playing a game and they're really just having fun. And oh yeah, by the way, they're also engaging with the brand. They're also supplying more information and data, and they're also telling their friends about it. Sure, that's awesome. But if you're really able to create a great gamified experience, a really cool competitive nature online through a cool program, then all the other benefits will just occur naturally, while all that becoming a fun and whimsical game. But I think the end goal should be just to create the user's experience or generate a better user experience for those people on the website, and then while doing so, you'll get all the benefits that come along with that.
That makes total sense. With Sumpto, how have you transformed the users into players? So what channels do you use to get people playing, and what avenues would you recommend brands explore if they're trying to get started with gamification?
Yeah, definitely. So, what we've really explored with is college. There's a lot of basic social groups in college. So college is inherently social, and by that I mean that there's so many groups on campus, and there's so many different ways for people to be a part of groups. So not only by colleges, by fraternities and sororities, which house you live in, which dorm you live in, your classes, everything is grouped into these little sub-communities. So we're able to play off those existing components and apply it to our website in a very natural and seamless way. So as we try to minimize the friction points along that, that just enhances the user experience. For brands and for other people trying to really implement gamification, I think it's about understanding your user base and understanding what is a natural trigger. So for college students, people love bragging about their school. My school's better than your school. Your school football team is not as good as mine. Whatever, awesome, great. Fraternities and sororities, different groups and organizations, those are natural triggers within the college demographic that we're able to apply. But for every user base, there's always those existing groups or existing connections. And if you're able to leverage those existing connections on your platform, that will really create some really cool competitive engagement.
That is excellent advice, Ben. How do you keep a game from becoming stale? So what ways do you change the game to keep it interesting once you see that engagement's declining?
Yeah, I think you need to constantly change it up, but you don't want to change it up too much that people are like, well, I'm never going to be able to win. You don't want to dangle it in front of their face for forever and having them never be able to touch it. You want them to be able to get from point A to point B, and then when they get to point B, then they're saying, oh wait, there's also a point C. So now they're looking at from point B to point C. Once they get to C, they're saying, oh wait, I can also get to point D. But I think if you kind of push it out as, hey, look, you can get from point A to point Z, people are going to be like, oh, that's such a huge task. I don't want to do all that. It's going to take me so long. So I think by minimizing the time frame and giving them an incentive that they can easily and quickly achieve is the best way to do it. And then once they achieve it, say, oh yeah, you can also win this, or you can also perform these tasks, and that will really keep the engagement going on a prolonged time period. But I think staging is very critical for a user in understanding that they can both, A, actually achieve that goal in a certain time period, and then once they achieve it, there's more they can actually get.
That makes total sense. That's excellent. So finally, Ben, how can folks actually sign up with Sumpto, and what are some of the benefits they will have from joining your site?
Sure, yeah. So if you just go to sumpto.com, we only allow college students to register, so we do require a valid .edu email address. But if you do have a .edu, sign up, and we work with a ton of different brands and companies that all want to connect with the college demographic. And by leveraging our platform, brands are more effectively able to connect and engage with the difficult-to-reach college demographic.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Ben, for joining me today. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and good luck with Sumpto.
Great. Thanks so much, Gabe. I appreciate it.
Have a good one.
Thanks, you too.